Uh-oh, we're live. Oh, this is Coach Arnie with the Health, Love, and Life show. And it is another Thursday evening. So we're roaring to go here. Health, Love, and Life. There it is. You can see that. And I'm over here on Instagram as well, waiting for some folks to show up. But that's okay because we're rolling. And tonight we're going to talk about kind of an interesting topic. A lot of times these topics just come to me because of people I'm talking to or clients and maybe something in the media that's going on. So it's kind of topical. And let's just have a conversation about it. So it's called fear. And as I was doing some homework, and I'll get into what are fears that we're born with and fears that we're conditioned or that we learn over our lifetime. And you're going to be surprised, I think. And but I want to get into some acronyms that were out there that, we hear them all the time. Like, here's one that I think is probably the most common for fear: false evidence appearing real. That's true, right? Because we don't really have any, because when we start to look at fear, we don't have any real evidence. Because I got news for you. If somebody is pointing a gun at your head, that's real. So you would be expected to have some fear there, unless you're somebody who's trained in dealing with that. But even them, that's going to trigger a response from you, especially if you're trained on how to move through that fear to get the result of either taking that person down or doing something that you've trained for to move through the fear. So that's real. That's a real situation. But most fears are not. They're expectations. So let's go through a couple more of these. How about feeling excited and ready? That goes back to what we were just talking about. But at the same time, maybe it's a student and you've done your homework. You've prepared for a test. So you're excited and ready. I mean, that's another positive way of dismantling fear, because fear in the normal realm can dismantle you, especially if you're not ready. We're going to talk about that here in a second when we talk about the human mindset and the champion mindset. Stuff I've learned from Dr. Jeff Spencer, who's great with stuff like this. So here's another one. For everything, a reason. I like that one because if we start to look at life and fear, and stuff happens to you, and sometimes we just think, oh man, God's picking on me, or life isn't fair, and all that stuff, right? We all go through that. But if we look at things and say, why? I love this because Tony Robbins taught me a long time ago, always ask a better question. So I've tried to do that for well over 20 years. When stuff happens, because it happens every single day, and it doesn't happen, you're just not paying attention. Okay? And you ask, okay, why is this happening? What's going on? What is it telling me? What am I needing to prepare for? Instead of, oh man, I'm being picked on. Oh man, woe is me, woe is me. So for everything there, and I truly believe that. For everything, there's a reason. Maybe you fight with your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your wife or your husband. What is it telling you? For some people it might be, I'm bored. Need to start a fight. Need some excitement in my life. I don't know. I mean, these are things that we need to ask better questions about. So let's go back now. Let's kind of circle back here, and let's talk about what I consider to be fears that we're born with. Okay, just checking over here on Instagram. Fears that we're born with. And a lot of these I learned many, many years ago studying a guy named Bandler, I think Richard Bandler. But he's not the only one that taught this stuff. But to me, it made it very clear that we're only born with two fears. The fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. See, I always thought it was a fear of heights. But technically, being up high isn't the scary part. It's falling. That's the scary part. And I have that. But some of the ways that I dismantled that was to go skydiving. And you know what I learned about that? When I was up high enough, I didn't have that fear of falling anymore because the ground was distorted. I really couldn't see. So when I jumped out of the airplane, I felt secure and safe with the person I was with. And I experienced a wonderful experience and landed, and everything was cool. Now, I'm not completely healed from that, because when I get up on a bridge or something like that, I mean, I still have that fear of falling, but I test myself to push through that, because not that I'm excited about jumping off a bridge, but I don't want it to own me. I don't want that fear to own me. So what I'll do sometimes is, like if I'm at a Grand Canyon, I'll give you, for instance, I just did it on the Grand Canyon. They have a huge suspension bridge that goes over the Colorado River. It's pretty high up. And the water's running real fast. And I always have a fear of something falling off my head, like my glasses or something. Or tripping, because there are some of these, it's metal, and some of the bottom grates are a little bit loose, and when you go across it, you hear the chink, 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 chink all the way across. It's pretty far across. And I always fear of, because I've actually done it. One of the things, it caught my toe one time. I didn't fall, but I thought, man, that was crazy. Wish they'd fix that. And I think they probably have. Or the fence on the side has little metal protrusions that could catch my foot or something like that if I were to stick my foot there. But I always kind of stop and look over and take a picture maybe. But I do that because I don't want the bridge to own me. I want to own the bridge. I respect it. I'm not going to go on there and do something stupid. I had a friend I was with one time, and he did lose his sunglasses because he forgot he had them on his head. So, oops, over the top. So I don't want that fear of falling to own me, because I've dealt with the fear of heights for a long, long time. And once I started to understand it, I started to kind of challenge myself. I know I did it with roller coasters. I didn't like roller coasters because of the heights. So I remember as probably 20 years ago. Gosh, it's been that long. 20 years ago. Well, not quite 20. 2000. 18 years ago, I was in Coney Island, and they have one of the largest or oldest wooden roller coasters. I think it's wooden, or roller in general. And the name misses me. I didn't put it in my notes. But I challenged myself to not only ride that sucker, but I rode the very first car. So I got to see everything from the point. And I not only did it once, but I did it twice. And ever since then, I don't have a fear of roller coasters. But I challenge myself. I'm doing this. You know, I had a fear one time of jumping off a cliff because I'd had an injury and people thought it was from jumping off of houses into the swimming pool. And so I was coaching a team of young guys. This was even longer ago. This was, gosh, almost 40 years ago. And man, I tell you, when I stood on that cliff and all these kids were screaming, "Come on, coach, jump." And I was scared to death. I didn't let them know that because I had this fear. Again, of falling. So, and at that time, it was fear of injury as well. So I said, "No, you got to do this. You got to do this." And I jumped. And within, seconds, I was in the water, kind of cold. But I told myself, "Wow, I'm okay." Got back up, did it again. I'm going to tell you a crazy story here. That day, not only did I jump from there, but I jumped from a higher cliff. I jumped, I think it was 60 times. And I don't know how many hours it took. It was hours. And let me tell you something even crazier than that, because we went back later, a couple months later after the season, after the baseball season, because it was a baseball team, so it was in the summer. Myself and a couple other guys on the team and coaches, we jumped, I personally, 106 jumps. So you think I'm scared? Now, granted, I haven't done that in almost 40 years, but I overwhelmed that fear with action, because that is an oldie but a goodie. Action cures fear, and it really does, especially massive action. So do you think 106 jumps off of a cliff is massive enough action to overcome that fear of falling? And these are real fears that you're born with. So those are the two that you're born with. Fear of loud noises. And the way they test that as well with babies, they'll go behind you and clap or bang a pan or something like that. And the baby will respond, and you know that they're hearing you well. Now, let me give you another one on the loud noises thing. I was out running in the desert by my house, and it was a lightning storm out there. It was early in the morning. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was lightning. I thought, "Oh, no big deal. If it starts raining, I'll come home." So it was lightning in the sky, and all of a sudden you can hear it crackling, and which means, that's getting kind of close. I'm out there running, and I had parked in the parking lot, and I was kind of doing loops around the area in case it rained. And then I noticed that the flashes of light were getting closer, and it was banging. It's like, woo, I don't know about this. So I'm doing another lap around this area that it was like almost a mile track that I had kind of created in my area there. And all of a sudden I saw this big flash in the desert, pretty close. I mean, close enough that the desert literally lit up. And, if you know anything about lightning, which most of us do, you're going to see the light first. Okay. The light first because of the speed of light. And then, bam, right after that. I mean, it was the loudest noise I've ever heard in my life. It literally struck the desert and probably less than 100 yards away from where I was. It was so stinking loud that it set out the alarm in my car. And literally within a minute, and I just started running. I started running through the desert. My light somehow went off. I don't know if it was me hitting it, but my light on my head went off, my headlamp, and my car alarm went off. I'm running through the desert in the dark, and I didn't care rocks, stuff. I was busting it to my car, and as soon as I got to my car, just a little before that, it started pouring rain. I mean, it was like boom, boom, boom. It's like, are you kidding me? So loud noises, I don't care who you are. I don't care how bad you think you are. When lightning strikes, you're going to jump, especially if it's close to you. I don't care who you are. I don't care. It's just one of those things. It's a natural instinct, mindset, reaction. Okay, there's nothing you can really do about it. Can't really train for that. I don't know, unless you want to stand in a lightning storm. I don't know how many people want to do that. So, those are the ones that we're born with. Now, everything else is learned and conditioned. Everything. Think about it. All the phobias, and phobias are just extreme fears, not based on reality. I mean, like phobias of snakes. I mean, if you're afraid of a snake, unless you've been bitten by a snake, which, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So, because that wouldn't be a phobia anymore, because you really were bitten by a snake. So, phobia, everything else is learned. And if you take all the phobias, you take all the fears out there except loud noises, falling, and you bunch them together, and then they've gone around the world and they've asked people, they've surveyed people, they've studied people, and they found that the two most common fears around the world, men and women, doesn't matter. Number one, and they're relatively the same, so 1, 2, 2, 1, doesn't matter. Never being loved. That's right. Never being loved. The fear that you're never going to be loved, which is why for men and women, we do such goofy things in relationships or trying to get in a relationship. I mean, we do stupid stuff. Some of it's violent, like stalking and just really crazy stuff that people do. Men and women. I mean, there have been movies on this stuff. Are you kidding me? Come on. So never being loved. It's a genuinely learned fear. It's not something, you're not born with that, because most of us are loved, unconditionally when we're born, unless you're falling to what's called failure to thrive syndrome, where you're not getting enough attention from mom. But usually your mom and your parents love you and people around you, and there's a lot, and then all of a sudden life happens to you and all this other stuff starts to develop. But never being loved is really crazy, because it's something that is learned. Now, the second one is the fear of not being enough. This is so stinking common that everybody goes through it. I don't care who you are. You're not good enough. You're not a good enough father. You're not a good enough husband, wife, brother, sister. You're not good enough at work. You're not good enough wherever you're at. You just don't feel like you're up to speed in whatever you need to do. I mean, I have clients that always have that fear, and they'll talk to me about it, and for fear of being fired because they're not good enough at something. And I go, "What? Do you have any evidence for that?" "Well, no, but I'm feeling that." That's horrible, right? Why do we want to be like that? We don't want to be like that. That's why we talk about it, and we try to do things. And I have so many different strategies, and we're going to go through some of those right now. But I just want to make sure we understand those two fears, because all of us have them. All of us. Fear of never being loved and the fear of not being enough. We all have those fears. All of us. I promise you. And so how do you deal with stuff like this? I mean, we can talk and cheerlead and do this. So let's just go over one little simple approach. So one of the things I like to say to someone is say, okay, let's focus on whatever this thing is. Maybe you're in a big race. Maybe you're an athlete and you're in a race. So first thing I tell people is don't freak out. If you're doing something in the race and it's something's not feeling right, don't freak out. Okay? Don't freak out. So now let's expose what it is. What's going on? Is it something maybe you don't feel right? Maybe you're getting a cramp. Maybe, something body part's not feeling good. Maybe, I don't know. Let's expose it. Instead of just trying to run away from it, let's what is it? Identify it. Okay. Number 3 is, so we're at fear. So F, E, expose it. A, now let's walk towards it. Don't run away from it. Remember when I talked to you earlier about my fear of heights, jumping off that cliff 106 times, getting on that roller coaster a couple times and dealing with it. That's action. That's massive action. And that's a way of approaching the fear versus avoiding it. Avoiding it makes the fear bigger every time. See, if I would have figured, and I could have, believe me, I thought about it because I knew that we are planning to go to this place in Arizona. It's called Grasshopper Point. I think it's a park now, but back then it was just a kind of a little area that we thought it was a secret area for us because it wasn't really officially a park. I knew we were going there, and the guys were talking about jumping off cliffs, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't do that. I stopped doing all that stuff when I was, a freshman in high school. So I was literally thinking about how am I going to get out of this? I'll give them some kind of story. I've got this, or I'll give them a story. But we all do that, don't we? We all talk about things. We make up things to get out of doing things. That's running. That's running from our fear. Okay, so that's approach. So F is focus, E is expose, A is approach, R is rehearse. I like to call it preparation. Preparation. So you can practice these things that you might be afraid of. If it's a test, if you're doing your homework, and you're doing some extra studying, you're going to be ready. And you're ready. Remember when I talked to you everything, one of the things, feeling excited and ready. Dr. Jeff Spencer calls that the champion's mindset versus the human mindset is just to react, because we're made for that. That's the part of our brain, the sympathetic nervous system that tells us that's the fight or flight. Be ready to run from the tiger. We'll talk about the tiger here in a minute. Be ready to avoid being eaten or clubbed to death or whatever it might be. So most of us live over there in that human mindset of reaction. A champion doesn't do that. A champion prepares for things that could happen. And if you do enough preparation, when it happens, you're ready. It doesn't mean you're always going to win, but it means you're ready. You're not surprised. I love it when people tell me, hey, coach, I'm going to wing it. And I go, as I'm rubbing my chin, really? So what does that mean? Well, I'm just going to show up. I know I haven't done enough what I need to be doing. I haven't practiced this, what I'm going to eat. I haven't practiced this. I haven't practiced that. I haven't studied the course. Okay. So am I supposed to be concerned for their health? Maybe. I mean, if they're paying me, and that was their answer, and that would tell me that they don't care. Now, will that always work out badly? No. Some people do really well with that. I mean, they survive. Some people even thrive. Now, is it something that I would teach? Hell no. Because the chances of you surviving and thriving and doing incredibly well are very small. So why do that? Why expose yourself to that type of trauma? It's not worth it. Or injury if you're in an athletic event, when you could do better preparation. And when you prepare like a champion, your chance for success is much greater, which means you're going to walk through the fear because of that preparation, that rehearsal, just like an actor. An actor that might have stage fright, you think he'll have more or less by practicing their lines and practicing and rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing. What do you think? What do you think? Well, common sense tells you, well, of course they're going to be better if they rehearse. Of course they'll probably have less stage fright. They still may have some, but if they're in the flow of the part, there's a good chance they're not going to be as fearful. So let's circle back for a second and let's look at that tiger. I love this metaphor because it works. It just works. You know, all of us have fears, whatever they might be. I like to use the metaphor of a tiger in the jungle. And that's where you're at. Because a lot of times when you have a fear, it's like you're in the middle of the jungle at night. And all of a sudden you see a couple glowing eyeballs at you. And you know what? That's scary. You know, I think about that sometimes when I'm in the wilderness or at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, because I know that's the wilderness and there's stuff out there. Stuff that's scary. So when you see the tiger in the jungle metaphor, and at that point you have to think. You have a couple choices. You have a couple of choices when you see a tiger in the jungle. And the most obvious choice using the human mindset is to run. I'm going to outrun this thing. This thing's not going to eat me. I'm going to outrun it. Problem with a tiger, it runs faster than you do. It does. It runs faster than you do. Let's say there was a river there. Still not a good idea. You know why? It swims faster and better than you do. How about climb a tree? I'll climb a tree and get away from this thing. Probably not a good idea. Because it climbs trees better than you do. And faster. Yep, that's right. So it runs, swims, and climbs better than you do. Is there anything you do better than the tiger? Nope. Except for one thing. You have a better brain than the tiger. So what can you do? Well, at that moment, you have a choice. The second choice. Instead of running, your second choice is stand your ground and lean in. Remember we talked about focus, expose, and approach? We can approach. I call it leaning in. So instead of running, we lean in and we don't go like this. We stare right into the tiger's eyes. That's all you got. That's all you got, unless you're carrying a big weapon and you know how to use it quickly, or a big knife or machete or something, and you know how to use it very well. You lean in. That's all you got. And if you lean into that tiger and stare him right in the eyes, stare the tiger right in the eyes, now you have put the onus or the choice on the tiger. You see, at that point, the tiger's going to choose, not you. You already chose. The tiger now gets to choose to either eat you or walk away. That's it. Because see, if the tiger wants to eat you, he's going to eat you. Now, let's assume that the tiger, who doesn't have as brilliant a brain as you do, let's assume the tiger says, I just had a big meal of some type of an antelope or some type of an animal that they love eating, and they usually eat once every few days or longer. And the tiger is eating, just kind of roaming through the jungle looking for another tiger or whatever, protecting her cubs maybe, and stops, stares at you, you stare at her or him, and the tiger goes, I'm not even hungry. I'm going to screw this person, this human. Move on. Now, if the tiger is hungry, the tiger is going to eat you. Nothing you can do about it. Now, but let's circle back again to when you originally saw the tiger. Let's assume this tiger that wasn't even hungry saw you, you saw him, and you started running because that's what your human brain told you to do. Well, here's this tiger that's not even hungry, but you know what animals do? They react. And they see something like you running through, they think, well, this is something that I might be able to play with or eat or do something with, even though I'm not hungry right now. But they're tigers. That's what tigers do. So they're going to chase you anyways, just for the heck of it. Because you stirred up their instincts. Your little human brain said, run. Well, their tiger brain said, chase. Because there's not very much they run from. So by you panicking and you being a human versus a champion, you just cost yourself your life. Okay? So with the tiger, stop running, stare at the tiger, make the tiger choose, and then deal with it. Don't run. Not going to help you. Don't run. Because see, in life, guys, when we are constantly running from our fears, not only are we going to lose, we're going to get worn out. At some point, you will get worn out running from your fears. We all do. We've all done it. Whether it's, I love this one in relationships because I've been there. And it's not a good feeling when you're constantly in a battle in your relationship. It'll exhaust you. It'll make you it'll wear you out. Whether it's arguing or if you're with maybe a spouse that you don't trust or other situations are going on and you're not dealing with it, you're just brushing it under the table. That will wear you out. So what do? Well, what I do with couples that I work with and individuals is I say, look, it's time to have a meeting. Because you go through 4 R's in a relationship. We go through some resistance, then some resentment, then rejection, and then repression. And so if you're getting some resistance in your relationships, that's the time to stare at the tiger. When the tiger's not hungry. Resistance doesn't mean you're going to get eaten. It just means, I got some issues here I want to talk about. They're not major, but if I run away from them, they're going to be major. So that's the time that I teach couples to sit down and talk about it when they're little. Because when those little resistances become resentments, then it starts to get ugly. When you resent something, that creates anger. Okay, now you're starting to feed that tiger. And that tiger's getting hungry because you're feeding that tiger a diet of, this is something to eat. You're teaching them, this is what you want to eat, this thing. And you don't want that. You don't want to get to resentment. Because if you get to resentment, now the tiger will get you. Because it's called rejection. All because you didn't address the fear or what was going on. Because fears get bigger when you feed them. They get bigger and bigger. That tiger gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and faster and stronger the more you feed it by running away from it. But if you address it, you lean into it, you stare at it, you talk about it, you work your way through it, that tiger becomes tiny, 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 tiny until it becomes a little bunny rabbit or a cute little tiger cub. See? So that all comes through working through things when they're small, not waiting till they're big. So that's why I'm a big believer in, I call them family meetings. It's same thing if I'm working with a team at work, same thing there. We see 5, 10 guys or people. It could be 3 people. It could be 100. It doesn't matter. But if you're meeting on a regular basis and you are addressing these little things that are popping up, like people, not replacing the pins, or somebody's not logging out of the computer, something, little things. If these little things are not addressed on a regular basis, they become resentments. Because people say, I am so sick of Jim doing this, this, and this. Instead of, hey, Jim, as a coach, I would say, hey, Jim, if you would have talked to these guys earlier about all this goofy stuff, this would have never happened. Never. Because we don't want to talk about stuff like that. But if we wait and we wait and we wait and we wait, it grows and grows and grows, and it's such a waste of freaking time. All because we didn't take the time to address it. So stop running from the tiger. Stand your ground, lean in, address it. Now, granted, hey, look, we've all been there. Sometimes stuff just eats you. That's okay. Learn from it. It's called divorce, bankruptcy. Just crazy stuff. How about those people in California? They deal with fires and floods. And wait what happens this year with all these fires going on. When the rain starts coming down, guess what happens when there's no more brush holding all that dirt together on those hills? Mudslides. It's all coming. Now, they can prepare for it or not. Doesn't matter. You can prepare all day long for stuff. You can, take better care of yourself. Drink more water, eat better food. We talk about that all the time here on this show, about dealing with preparation, dealing, keeping your weight down, exercising, eating better food. These are all things you can do to prepare for life so that life doesn't kick you in the teeth. Most don't. Most don't. We understand it, right? Most people in this country don't exercise. Most people in this country don't eat a good, non-processed food, which you might call clean. And I'm not telling you how. I work with clients that are vegan or they're carnivore. I've done them all. My goal is to find what works for you. You need to find what works for you. So nutrition-wise, exercise-wise, you need to find what works for you as far as communication. Do you need to have team meetings with your family? Do you need to have team meetings with people at work? Do you need to have team meetings with your friends? I have a client. She's a school teacher. She's a wonderful person. Her growth this year has been off the charts compared to last year. We were talking the other day how she has had so few problems this year. And she's thinking, man, I must have better kids. And I was just kind of going, I don't know. Maybe you're better. Maybe she's better. She has strategies in her classroom. She teaches kindness and empathy and all these wonderful things that we've talked about and come up with little programs for that. And so the kids are better. That's why she's better. And that's why her kids are better, because she's made them better. She's taken a bull by the horns and she's made them better. That's what it's about. That's what life's about. When you prepare, as Dr. Spencer has said, and you do your homework and you look for all the things that could be around the next corner and you prepare for those, when it happens in a race or it happens in life, you think you might do better. If you knew that something was around the next corner that could potentially hurt you, but you prepared for it, gosh, would you be better? I was watching a movie the other night. It was about racing and stuff, and there was a scene in there. I loved it because the young driver, it was one of these not Indy cars, but European style Le Mans, whatever they call that style racing. And the guy that ran the team had made a comment because he wasn't ahead. And somebody had commented, yeah, he's behind. He goes, don't worry about it. What do you mean? Well, he's already prepared. For what? The rain. What are you talking about? Because he already switched out to rain tires when everybody else didn't. He won. And he talked about how he drives and prepares and anticipates things that are coming because he practices that. Guys, everybody here can do that in life. You can switch to rain tires when the rain's coming. I mean, it's like me doing an ultra race and there could be bad weather. If I don't take things and prepare for that, it's on me. That's my fault. I can blame the weather all I want, but let that fear feed you instead of you feeding the fear. Anticipate it, prepare for it. And fears aren't going to be as big as they could be. I promise you. Fear is not the monster that you make it out to be. These phobias that we all deal with, which are extreme fears that are not based on reality, can be smaller by just stepping into them, exposing them, leaning into them, taking action. Are you willing to jump off a cliff 106 times to get rid of a fear? Boy, I tell you what, sometimes when I've talked to people that are dealing with crazy fears in their life, and I said, would it be worth an afternoon of jumping off a cliff? You know what I'm saying? Oops. There we go. Well, that's what I'm talking about. So as we finish up here, guys, let me give you an assignment. I want you to write down 3 to 5 fears that you may be going through right now. Write them down. Look at them. And let's use that champion's mindset. What can you do to expose this fear? What can you do? What kind of action can you take to move your way through it? Is it a relationship situation? Do you need to talk to somebody? Is it a physical situation? Do you need to take some action there? Do you need to change your diet? Is it something else at work? Maybe you need to do some more preparation and study, read a book, watch a video on YouTube. What can you do action-wise or whatever you need to do to expose this thing? 3 to 5 things. Write them down. Then look at them. And then do them. Okay? None of this means anything if there's no action, if there's no application towards it. It just, the fear remains. And it dominates right here. Dominates. Don't let that happen. All right? Hey, guys, this is Coach Arnie. And I am here with the Health, Love, and Life Show. We're here every Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And remember, you can always get a hold of me at 602-390-9144. Send me a message. Send me a text. You can also email me at arniefonseca@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you guys. I'm on Facebook at Arnie Fonseca Jr. Coach Arnie as well on Facebook. You can also follow me at Real Coach Arnie on TikTok, on Twitter at Real Coach Arnie, and on Instagram at Arnie F, Coach Arnie F. Would love to hear from you there as well. And if you're on LinkedIn, come on over there too. I'm starting to use LinkedIn a little bit more like a Twitter account. Just another strategy here. So listen, guys, I love you guys, and the goal here is to help you. This show doesn't mean anything if it's not helping you, okay? And so I care about you guys, and I want you all to be better, because if you're better, I'm better. But tell your friends about us. We're always here on the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. Check us out on Facebook. And I want to thank CC Schatz for allowing me this opportunity to talk to you guys. So until next week, and then the following week, we're going to take off because of Thanksgiving. But until next week, I love you guys. And I look forward to having a great week and hearing about your successes as well. Talk to you later.